Greetings, my name is Gabe Ignetti, and I want to speak to you about a new environmental organization called the Ecomodernist Society. I'm here because we're in the midst of a potentially monumental ecological crisis that the mainstream environmental movement is fundamentally incapable of addressing. It is only through a new Environmentalism 2.0 that real, lasting progress can be made. We should applaud and support the many worthwhile achievements and aspirations of mainstream environmentalism, but their idealism is accompanied by unproven and baseless fears. These fears have become an impediment to advances in areas such as human health, social progress, and even environmental progress. The source of that fear derives from the appeal to nature fallacy in the public mind that has been fostered largely by the environmental movement. It is basically the belief that whatever is natural must be good and what is unnatural must be bad. In the field of medicine, the appeal to nature fallacy has already led to catastrophic outcomes. Resistance to vaccines threatens public health and the lives of children. The unwarranted resistance to GMOs has not only held back the fight against climate change, but it has also hampered our ability to feed the underdeveloped world as well. And it has held back efforts to ward off the deadly Aedes aegypti mosquito, which has killed countless millions as a carrier of disease and plagues that still represents an apocalyptic threat to this day. The scientific consensus concerning the safety of GMOs is solidly supported in every major scientific organization across the planet. The only thing that's green about being anti-GMO is the extra cash that's made by overcharging for expensive boutique food. But that won't cut it when it comes to raising crops with accelerating heat stress, droughts, floods, disease, and insect infestations brought on by a hotter planet. Human progress has undoubtedly been very much like the old story of the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and the results have not always been good. But nonetheless, without bold technological progress, there can be no progress. We believe that just as technology has given us the means to accelerate the damage, it is technology that will enable us to accelerate repair. And that can only be achieved to the extent that we are able to leapfrog over fossil fuels with nuclear power, which has proven itself to be the cleanest, safest, and most reliable way of achieving decarbonization. It is the most reliable way to decarbonize simply because the alternative of weather-dependent power sources is inherently unreliable. The German experience proves it with 2 decades and a half a trillion euros spent in the pursuit of 100% renewable energy. The German experience proves it with 2 decades and over a half a trillion euros spent in the pursuit of 100% renewable energy. The result was that Germans ended up leading the EU in debts from coal and the cost of electricity as well. It makes no sense to accept the call of the IPCC for decarbonization within the next 12 years and yet reject their conclusion that these goals are impossible without nuclear power. In fact, it goes completely against almost everything that we're led to believe. But nuclear is actually the safest form of energy generation, according to all the accepted worldwide fatality data. Furthermore, according to a study from NASA's Goddard Institute, authored by Dr. James Hansen, 1.8 million lives have been saved from air pollution, and an additional 7 million lives will be saved in the next 4 decades by replacing fossil fuels with atomic energy. The overall safety and reliability of nuclear plants is based on their superior construction, which enables them to withstand the polar vortex, which has frozen gas lines, wind power, and even coal plants solid, while burying solar panels under tons of snow. Nuclear power plants have withstood the worst natural disasters, including hurricanes, earthquakes, and even the Fukushima tsunami. Yes, surprisingly, a nuclear power plant that was even closer to the epicenter of the 9.0 earthquake than the Fukushima Daiichi plants survived the tsunami. Luckily, the generator was not dangerously exposed as a result of TEPCO's cutting corners on safety. And nuclear is the cleanest source of energy because it has the one distinction in that it is the only form of energy production that completely encases its waste stream. That's not true of any other energy industry, including wind, solar, and even hydro. Hydroelectric dams not only damage ecosystems, but they also produce nitrous oxide along with 1 billion tons of methane a year. That's why the Sierra Club had once declared nuclear power to be one of the chief long-term hopes for conservation. In fact, they loudly and rightfully called for the shutting down of dams instead of nuclear. It's not for nothing that their motto was once atoms, not dams. I might add that super safe advanced Gen 4 reactors, which will almost completely convert existing nuclear waste to energy for centuries, are coming very close to commercialization. These advanced reactors will make energy extremely cheap while enabling more complete and efficient recycling, as well as turning CO2 and other pollutants into useful products. The question you might be asking now is, well, what about the radiation? The fact of the matter is that radiation is ubiquitous. Natural radioactive elements, including uranium, plutonium, and potassium-40, that are constantly leaching from the Earth's surface dwarf the radiation from all nuclear accidents combined. The fact is that there were 0 recorded radiation casualties from Fukushima. So we need to ask ourselves, if Fukushima was such a massive, long-lasting health catastrophe, how was it that 4 years later, Japan broke its all-time record for longevity? In fact, Japan continues to remain the perennial leader in longevity in spite of having experienced 2 atomic bombings and 3 nuclear meltdowns. The real culprit in the deaths at Fukushima was not nuclear power, but rather the hysteria around the radiation, whose roots are in the radiophobia that has been spread by the anti-nuclear movement. The fact of the matter is that the fossil fuel industry has a long history of funding anti-nukers along with climate deniers to protect their bottom line. Science is in dire need of a champion. And that's what ecomodernism is all about. Ecomodernism is a new environmental paradigm which looks to reverse the fear of nuclear power and scientific progress in general. Ecology-based modernism is the most direct way to define it. This new and upcoming philosophy is based on an Ecomodernist manifesto, which was created in April 2015 by a group of 18 researchers, activists, and philanthropists worldwide. We believe that rather than mankind returning to nature, we need to do the opposite by separating from nature through urbanization in order for it to flourish. Urbanization is an unstoppable worldwide trend and the best solution for mankind's problems. It enables us to ultimately overcome our population problem because cities disincentivize the growth of large families. There's strong evidence that urbanization will actually create a population decline, as projected in an excellent book, Empty Planet. Urbanization is a historic antidote to both deforestation and species extinction, as humans move away from using wildlife as their source of protein. Vertical, urban, high-rise architecture minimizes the use of land, resources, and energy, enabling walkable cities that facilitates the more efficient use of mass transit as well. Now, before we go any further, let me emphasize that our support for technological solutions is definitely not about defending industrial polluters, nor do we accept funding from corporations or industry. Nor does our defense for technology imply that we just need to sit back and let things take care of themselves. To the contrary, we believe that mankind is at a crossroads that severely threatens our future progress and even our future survival on this planet. So let's start by asking, how real is eco-modernism? To begin with, what's real is that people throughout the world will always aspire to and deserve the life that can only be provided by industrial civilization, and they will inevitably move in that direction by any means necessary. Humanity is presently moving in the right direction in almost every metric except ecology. Mainstream environmentalism often points to the problem of resource limits on a finite planet. We reject that assertion on many levels. The advance of science has a long history of getting around problems of resource scarcity, and it will continue to do so. Another reason is that our planet exists in an infinite abundance of space, and that mining and even manufacturing will move off planet a lot sooner than we might think. In fact, NASA's asteroid redirect mission proposed to visit a large near-Earth asteroid, collect a multi-ton boulder from its surface, and redirect it into a stable orbit around the moon to be accomplished sometime in the 2020s. What we need to keep in mind here is that the entire world supply of gold can fit in a football field, and that there are many, far more scarce elements on Earth than there are in the infinite abundance of space. I hope by now that I have convinced you of the worthiness of our cause. Ecomodernism is really only a philosophy at this time. I want to talk to you about the necessity of turning it into a movement, which will be part of the larger environmental movement. It is only through our presence and participation that there can be any hope of moving environmentalism in the right direction. Our aim is not to divide the environmental movement, but rather to multiply its numbers with the incorporation of many scientific and educational communities. Our ultimate goal is to build a broadly based coalition in the defense of sound science, which will be the first and only 21st century pro-nuclear and pro-GMO environmental activist organization in the United States and Canada. We have a small group that is working to start several chapters of eco-modernist societies, as well as supporting our growth worldwide. We aspire to grow this movement by bringing together the numerous supporters of climate action that have been put off and alienated by mainstream environmentalism. Wildly contradiction of support for the shutting down of nuclear power in the midst of a climate emergency, and to draw them into our ranks. I would like to state that the Ecomodernist Society aspires to be a more grassroots, science, and evidence-based organization built on a collaborative foundation, which will be governed directly by its members rather than the top-down ideological structure of most mainstream environmentalist organizations. We hope to provide the in-person advocacy that is necessary for making changes through lobbying, protests, forums, town halls, debates, movie screenings, and recruiting events. It is our hope that the Ecomodernist message expands to the airwaves as Ecomodernist radio and college radio and community stations across the nation. Thank you.